U.S. Women's National Team roster just dropped, and let's take a look at it. This is for the She Believes Cup. For goalkeepers, they've got Claudia Dickey, Mandy McGlynn, Valentolas Joyce is back in the house, everybody. Defenders, we've got Jordan Bugg, Emily Fox, Naomi Girma, Lily Reel, Tara Rudd, Emily Sonnet, Giselle Thompson, Kennedy Wesley, Kate Wiesner. Midfield, we've got Sam Coffey, Lindsay Heaps, Claire Hutton, Riley Jackson, Rose Lavelle is back, Olivia Moultrie, Jaden Shaw, and Lily Johannes. And up top, Maddie Darlene, Jamise Joseph, Trinity Rodman, Emma Sears, Ali Sentinor, and Alyssa Thompson. Guys, this is the first time under Emma Hayes' tenure that she has not featured an uncapped player. Or excuse me, in over a year. This is the first time since last She Believes Cup, which to me is crazy. Like, you get a cap, you get a cap, you get a cap. And this signals to me that she's finalizing that roster. We're going to see more of a consistent roster going into a World Cup year after this. But Sandra, any surprises? What stood out to you with this initial drop?
Well, I had kind of mixed reactions because I was like, all right, the gang's mostly all back together again. But I think for me, what I wanted to pay attention to were the January camp holdovers, because that was such a unique window, and it was cool sort of getting an up close and personal look at that, taking a trip on the road and seeing these players kind of just sort of fight for that attention, leave their mark on the coaching staff, because Emma Hayes is, if nothing else, but very transparent and self-aware, said that eventually there is going to be a full turning of the page. And I think we're seeing it already, like to your game note about there's not a single player on this roster that doesn't have a cap to their name. Now that's sort of a chapter perhaps closed as they sort of continue to make this march towards World Cup qualifiers in November. And that's really what it's going to be about. I think it's going to be about narrowing down that very expansive pool of players that you made happen in 2025, and now kind of just run with this smaller core group of player that sort of see how they work maybe with this 11 that are back in the mix, the players who are coming in a now official window, who can get called in during a FIFA international schedule, the European club players, your Heaps, your Girma, your Valentolas Joyce. How are some of these holdovers going to operate with these usual suspects? And I think that's going to be that next text for some of them. So I'm very eager to see players like, Maddie Deline or even Jamise Joseph, like how are they going to compete alongside someone like an Alyssa Thompson?
Or Riley Jackson, even. Those younger players that don't have many caps that, we've only seen get a couple minutes, those are the ones that I was really surprised by. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, where's Avery Patterson? Where's Kat Macario?
Yep.
What happened?
Yeah. Macario is an interesting one, I think, maybe because of the noise. You could argue, or but Avery Patterson was definitely the one for me that I kind of was a little bit shocked not to see. But I think we're seeing definitely I think what Emma Hayes has done though with the amount of players, like 32 players caps in their 32 matches, that's like new caps. That's a whole refresh of a program. I think so. Now it's interesting to see that progression of more familiar names, but I love that she's seen the whole picture of caliber of player, and starting to narrow it down. I still think there's so much football to be played up until the World Cup actually happens, so we're still far off. But definitely that balance of inexperience and vets seems to be there going into this, because it's tough games. She believes it's back to competition, but I do love the progression that we're now seeing with the roster and having more of a balance compared to the year previous, shall I say.
Yeah, I think we've all kind of been craving seeing what this roster is going to look like, a little bit more finalized, a little bit more of a spine of truly what this team is going to be. Shout out to our producer, Adriana, who said Macario is technically listed as injured by Chelsea. So, okay, there's something there. That's why she's not in camp. But still a lot of question marks. Even the player I loved from last camp, Ayo Okay. Yeah, I would love to see her. I thought she was so dynamic, but I wonder if it's just a little bit too late. with that glimpse that we got to see of how brilliant she is with the kind of history and time other players have had already.
Yeah, I do. I think Emma Hayes, and during that January camp, she talked a lot about longer term vision, to the point where even someone like Claire Hutton, who I spoke with, was saying that like there are things being laid out here, and yes, that goal is going to be to push for that big roster in November and that even bigger roster in 27. But there's no confusion for that camp. This was also for 28, 2031 beyond, players who maybe are still have eligibility for youth World Cups, so those conversations were pretty clear, which makes this SheBelieves Cup roster, I think, just that much more intriguing, because there are players who are these January camp holdovers, and you're just kind of like, they obviously did enough to where the staff wants to see them against opposition like Colombia or Canada, and to say, okay, well, you did this against Paraguay, against Chile. Let's see if you can do that against Canada, who's going to come out there and just look to elbow you in the ribs every 5 seconds.
Right.
It's going to be a much different task and environment for them.
Yeah, I think this is a massive test. Looking at this roster, and I think even especially the front line, I love that Jamise Joseph is back. I thought she was so good in the January window. Maddie Dolly, we didn't get to see much of her, so I'm intrigued to see how she fits into the squad with these games coming up. But up top, we've talked about Triple Espresso for years. We haven't gotten to see them play together for years now at this point. Sophia Wilson and Mel Swanson looks like they're back in training, getting touches, introducing them into a preseason. Do you think that this could be maybe one of the last camps that we don't see them? Maybe the next camp, Triple Espresso, will be back involved in a camp. Jen, you're kind of nodding along.
I mean, I hope so. I think everyone wants to see them back, but I think it's so hard to predict coming off the back of, becoming a parent, right? No one really, and it's so different to any other pregnancy. I hope they're both doing well, but I just think that part is so hard to predict, because that becomes so down to the individual. I just hope they're, things are going well and they're being integrated really smoothly and they're feeling great. Everyone wants them back ASAP, but everyone wants them back healthy ASAP.
Yeah.
No one wants to see them break down. I think the coming back to a full training load at club level is a lot, let alone international level. That jump is huge. I know they both have, an incredible amount of experience, and the talent level's insane. I just want to see them back fit, back healthy, back flying for club, and of course back in a US jersey ASAP. But I find that one so hard to predict, guys. I'm not sure how you're feeling, because we still haven't seen them play, right?
Yeah.
And until that happens, it's hard to call, but I hope so.
I will say this. I do think that having a SheBelieves Cup where you mirror kind of that, international tournament, multiple teams in a short span of time, and then looking ahead a little bit, knowing that you want to recreate or repeat a little bit of that kind of test and environment for your players with a 3-game stead against Japan following SheBelieves Cup. I think that, it's always chess, right? It's chess, not checkers with Emma Hayes. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's even less of some of these January holders in the 3-game set against Japan, and there's different players who are called in. Maybe by the time that comes around, Sophia Wilson is back to playing regular minutes for club, and then you get her back in the mix, and you have 2 parts of Triple Espresso back in the mix. I respect.
It's a double espresso.
Yeah, double espresso. I respect the baller mentality so much. I really appreciated Sophia Wilson, speaking so honestly and candidly about her return. She was gunning for the SheBelieves roster, keeping in touch with Emma Hayes. We all saw her there in the sidelines.
She was everywhere.
Games. Yeah, just say, hey, look, yeah, meet Gigi,
I'm
hang
here.
out, like just letting her know. Yeah, no, so I respect it so much. But I also, it's great to have that layer of trust with your coach and the staff, where they're just like, you got to get some minutes, and we're gonna we're gonna get you in. So I would imagine that, something like Japan, facing Japan 3 times, yeah, you're gonna want a Sophia Wilson if she's playing at that point against that window versus right now. So I think, players coming back from pregnancy is always different for everybody. I don't think that's talked about enough. Like, people don't think about postpartum as like an injury, but like it could be considered maybe one of those planned injuries. It's like, it's something that you're going to have to deal with, and it's like it's different for everybody. So watching Sophia Wilson come back, Mal Swanson obviously still sort of coping with that a bit, and everyone's going to be different, but it's going to be interesting to see how She Believes roster fares for that next roster that drops.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jen.
No, I was just going to say something completely off on a tangent, but I hope there's a documentary being made about their return to play, because I think it's
so needed.
An amazing story, and especially Road to World Cup.
Yep.
Hopefully there's a documentary being made.
I completely agree. You know what? I've been thinking about our A3 friend, my girl, J-Mac. And when she talks about coming back from having her oldest son, Jeremiah, she's like, oh, it felt like my body felt better.
Wow.
Like, she felt like she had like a superpower almost now being a mom with having her kids. So putting that energy out there for all of the ladies coming back from pregnancy.
Alex Morgan won a golden boot after having had one of her best
MVP golden boot.
Yeah, had one of her best club career seasons following, coming back from, pregnancy. So it's just it's gonna be very fun to watch and witness.
Putting that energy out there for them. I love it. Okay, when we take a step back, they play Argentina, Canada, Colombia back to back to back. I think this is a great test.
Yeah.
You get something completely different from Argentina, something totally different, probably messier from Canada. Hopefully it's not waterlogged this time. And then Colombia. I love the US-Colombia matchup. I think we just get it so much more, just with proximity and regionally. So looking at this, do you think this is such a good prep, just thinking ahead for this roster, Sandra? And these games offer enough diversity for this team to actually prove what they can do?
I do. I think it's the perfect kind of test to start off 2026, knowing that you have your regional World Cup qualifiers at the end of the year. Opponents, CONMEBOL opponents in Argentina and Colombia will absolutely be great tests for this team and these players if they find themselves going up against not only Canada again in November, but other teams in Haiti, potentially, Mexico, Jamaica. It's like there's going to be layers of familiarity, I think, in terms of styles. And so I think it's also going to be very important to pay attention, maybe who starts what game, who is getting tasked with the start against Argentina versus who is getting tasked with a start against, Canada. And I would almost argue that maybe some of these players who have found themselves over the last years as regular mainstays, like Alyssa Thompson, Olivia Moultrie, I want to see those players against Canada specifically. Who are you? Who are you when you are getting wrecked every 5 seconds? Show me who you are when the only way is through. And I want to see it. So I think this trio of teams, very good start for this team.
Yeah, 100%. I think the beauty of these games is they offer differences tactically and mentally, exactly what you guys have shown. I think, and that's when you show the real, which I think Emma Hayes is spot on. She's kind of touched on that in her press conferences as well. But who shows the tactical awareness of how the games change over the course of back-to-back, whether it's because Canada to Colombia is so different, whether it's a high prep. Yeah. So I that's what I love about international football the most, the tactical differences and what players can spot what at different moments in a game. And I guess the maturity is the right word for that, the tactical maturity to who has the awareness. So in terms of like lessons that can be learned from this, I'm excited for it.
I love this because I think this is where we get to see Emma Hayes' magic over the team that she's created. 3 completely different opponents, 3 totally different challenges, tactically, mentally, physically. we have some fun games on our hands in a She Believes Cup. And of course, your girls on E3 are going to recap after every single game. March 1st, March 4th, March 7th against Argentina, Canada, Colombia. We will be chopping it up about these matches.